Hi guys, Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher coming at you for the second time. Those of you who are watching live are probably wondering where my brain is. And I can tell you today, guys, it's not functioning at peak performance. So we went approximately 9 minutes for those of you who were trying to get my attention, who I couldn't see on my phone the comments telling me that my mic was turned off. I think we have that resolved now. As I look at my settings, yes, indeed, I have an active mic. You can hear me. My poor guest, who I've introduced in the last one, but apparently I didn't really introduce her because you couldn't hear what I was saying. Marium Lodhi is waiting patiently in the background here, laughing at my folly here as I try to once again go live and start this episode of the Canadian immigration, the Canadian, what are we? We're the Express Entry Law Facebook group. This edition of the EE Live Q&A. I've got so many things, guys. I've got the Canadian Immigration Institute, the Canadian Immigration Podcast. I have different intros, outros. Oh my goodness, I can't keep things straight. This one is my EE Live Q&A where I answer your questions about Express Entry. This video, if you're watching it as a recording, is also spun out onto the Canadian Immigration Institute's YouTube channel because Facebook, well, I wonder if they throttle even more if I say that they suck, because right now they really suck. And unless I pay, so I already paid to add some of you guys in initially and then work my tail off for endless hours to basically provide helpful content for people to join the group. Well, now when I do these videos, they don't even appear in your timeline sometimes. So those of you who managed to get through, and I can see you slowly adding in here, that is awesome. So let all your friends know that it's live, tag them, whatever it takes. And for those of you who are watching it as a recording, hey, it's great. You probably found it on the YouTube channel. A couple things that I did want to announce again for the second time. First off, the group is massive. We're just about 111,000 people right now. And in the beginning, I was able to answer everyone's question. And that was really important to me because I didn't have a lot of content that was out there, questions that I'd already answered. And my main primary goal was to help people from being taken advantage of by unscrupulous, crooked consultants and agents overseas who just stole their money and gave them nothing. And so I created the group to be able to help those people so that they could protect themselves. And then over time, it grew and grew, and I thought, well, maybe some of them actually want to hire me as a lawyer, so I'll do that. And then I realized that my legal fees in Canada, which I don't make any excuses for, are often out of reach of many people. So then I created let's see if I can pull it up here. I'm not even sure if I have it here. Yes, I do. So then I created the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to help people navigate their way through in a safe place that they could actually trust. And so I created that to help people, and then the group just kept getting larger and larger, and I couldn't answer everyone's question. So then I started doing these live videos when I discovered them, and then answering questions all day, all night has just reached the point now where I just can't do it anymore. So if you need direct assistance from me one-to-one to resolve your specific questions, you're going to have to book paid consultations going forward. However, if you have a question that you think is general in nature that will help everybody in the group, then don't forget you can always send me an email to mholthe@stringham.ca and put EE Live Q&A in the subject line, and then I will consider your question for an upcoming session. Now, I'm not just leaving you guys without help. That's not the goal of this. But what I'm doing is I'm creating videos that are very specific, that answer the most common problem areas that people have. They're all getting put into my Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide. I'm in the process of updating a few of the videos now as we speak, and that source is going to be the source of all of my knowledge. So lots of the things that you would call and book consults for have actually been addressed through the Q&A section in there and everywhere else. But for those of you who are just looking for help and guidance, I'm still offering everything that I have before. We're going to keep doing the EE Live Q&As, and we're also, I want you to know that at the top of our group, so if you go to the very, very top, and I think some of you are wondering, Mark, why are you showing us your phone? Well, I'm going to show this again so you can actually hear what I'm saying. See if I can get in there close. Okay, it's kind of hard to see. It's a little bit blurry. But right there, you can see there's announcements at the top of our Express Entry Law group. And within there, that first post is my mailing list. So if you want to be notified, because Facebook can't control your email and they can't control the email list that I have, this is the way I've determined I need to resolve the fact you guys aren't seeing my videos. So if you subscribe to my email list, then I will send you out a notification of when it's going to happen, and you can tune in and watch it live. Or I will also provide you with a link to notify you of the recording of it so you can watch. So those that's going to be the way that I'm best able to communicate with you. So I recommend that you subscribe to the mailing list, and then you'll get notified. So neither of us will have to bang our heads against the wall because Facebook is making our lives miserable. Now, there may be a time when I decide, hey, there's so many people purchasing the guide and so many people are benefiting from it that the revenues that I'm making from that are actually paying for itself, which now it's not really even paying for itself. But the reality is it's because not many people know how freaking awesome it is. But that's okay. That's why we're bringing on the guests who can actually tell you. So it's not just me telling you how awesome it is. So we're going to get rid of that one. But understand that there's going to be lots of ways that you're still going to get help from me. But if you want specific one-to-one going forward, you'll have to pay for it. All right. Without further ado, I do want to give a little bit of an introduction to our awesome guest. She is waiting patiently. She can hear everything I'm saying, and she's trying not to tell me just to, Mark, stop talking and just let me get on here. She's been very patient. And Marium has been a member of our group for quite a while. And so she is over in Pakistan, patiently waiting. And I'm going to now see if I can add her in here. There we go. She is live. Welcome, Marium. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me here.
It is awesome to have you join us. Thanks for your patience. So let's give a little bit of background to our listeners. We've talked about the fact you're from Pakistan, and what do you do?
So I am a digital marketer, which means whatever problems you're facing, those are probably the ones that I have faced for my clients before. Yes. So yes, that's what I do. I've been
Marium
in the
may have
advertising
some business when she comes over to Canada. She may very well have some business.
Okay. Yes, keeping my fingers crossed for that. So yes, so it's marketing and advertising as far as I'm concerned. And I have been in Pakistan most of my life, apart from traveling a little bit here and there as far as I've gone to UK and a few other countries. But yes, primarily from Pakistan.
Excellent. All right. So what stage, where are you at within this whole process?
My AOR, which was the day that I submitted my EAPR, my application, was around the 6th of January, 2018. And I received my PPR request on the 2nd of May. And yes, I'm just going to submit my application. I'm going to submit my passports for my COPR, and hopefully we'll be flying in July for a soft landing to Toronto.
Awesome. That is so cool. Yes. So Toronto's the destination. All right. Now, I know you had a little bit of a bumpy road as you were working through everything. How long have you been a member of our group?
So let me give you a little bit of background here. So 1.5 years back, a friend of ours introduced us to the concept that there's an express entry program going to Canada. I had absolutely no knowledge of it, and I was the sort of person who didn't want to do a lot of work at this point in time. I was like, who's going to give IELTS, who's going to prepare the application, and blah, blah, blah. So my husband took me to, because I was going to be the primary applicant, my husband took me to one of these consultants in Karachi, Pakistan, and they were like one of the leading consultants we have there. And
what does that mean? I love that comment. What does it mean that they're one of the leading consultants? It's the one that everybody trusts?
Everybody was recommending that you should go to this person, have a conversation, and you guys are going to have the score, and it will be very easy for you to go to Canada. But now let me tell you what really, really put me off. So I go to this gentleman, and we start having a conversation. Now I'm an individual who knows absolutely nothing about express entry, and I simply asked him questions like, do you think I should be applying, or whether it would be a good thing for my husband to apply? And secondly, whether there are any professions that are given preference in Canada as in comparison to Australia. And this gentleman was not even willing to give me answers to these questions. And he kept on saying, give me 400,000 K. And once you've done that, I'll start giving answers to whatever questions you have. Yeah. And I was so pissed off. I was like, dude, I'm just asking you basic questions to see if you're somebody that I can trust to go on as far as this process is concerned. And he just wanted me to give 400,000 K, and the only thing he was going to do is fill in my application, and then probably do the same thing that I would be doing online, probably find somebody from Canada to answer important questions. So it just pissed me off, and I came home, and then I just started searching, and I think Facebook did me, I probably, because I was searching for Canadian immigration on Google, Facebook basically led me to your page. And I started following your page around 1.5 years ago. And that's where I learned everything about Express Entry. And I came across your Canadian Immigration Institute course. So I told my husband, oh, this is something that we need to do. And then the monthly option that you had, because I'm not a believer, it takes me time to really, really invest in something. So I was like, let's start off by, using the monthly option and see if this is going to add anything to what we're doing. Yeah. So I started off with the monthly thing. And honestly speaking, I kept it for a year because of the hitches in my application. I got an ITA back in July. Then I had to let go of that ITA. And then I had to apply again in January. Yeah. So it's just amazing, the kind of information that's there. And I seriously tell everybody, especially because if you're from Pakistan, I don't know about other countries, but if you're from Pakistan, and if there's even a slight chance that any of your document is missing, or if there's any information that's not there, your application is going to get stuck at the London VO for like a year or so. And I have friends, in fact, the friend who actually told me to apply for Express Entry, his application has been stuck in the London visa office since February 2017. Oh my goodness. He did, yes, and I applied on 6th of January 2018, and it got processed in 4 months because all the documents were there, everything was streamlined, and I seriously think I would not have been able to do it had I not had that particular, DIY guide that you've created. So whenever I find any people, I tell them, please just spend some time listening to what he has to say, and I'm telling you, you're going to have you're going to get through. That's what I tell everybody.
Yeah, that's very, very, very kind, Marium. It's interesting because in the world we're in right now, there's a tremendous amount of distrust. And so just like your experience, right? So if someone just came on and they said, well, who is this Mark and why am I going to buy this free guide? Like, who are you? All of the information is all free on the internet. So why would I pay someone for information? Well, why did you waste your money on this guide when there's all this free information on the internet?
See, there is a lot of free information out there, but there's not complete information. So you might find a video telling you how to, fill in your personal history, etc. What you've done in your particular guide is you have modules for each step of the application. So whether it is, basically seeing whether you're eligible for your Express Entry program, the 67 points that you need to get, to the place where you have to fill everything step by step. All of it is there till the very end. And a few of the tips that you gave us, for example, I remember one thing very clearly. You said, if you're basically putting the PDFs wrong, if your birth certificate is in case of your passport, so you're going to get a rejection. And you also talk about the fact that, the Express Entry program is not built in a way that it's very user-friendly. So there are places where you have to check your documentation 10, 11 times. And I know for a fact that I'd never thought of it before, and I generally checked my PDFs 10 times. And my husband was crying his eyes out that you are, what the hell is wrong with you? It's okay. I was like, no, this is the reason why a lot of applications are getting rejected. Yeah. And I've seen on the group that a lot of people have made this mistake and their applications are being rejected. Now imagine the amount of money that these people are losing, because once the fee has been paid, if it's rejected, you have to start the process all over again. So that is,
I didn't even think about that. I didn't even consider that in my equation. So $550 is what you're putting up front. And that doesn't even count $550 is what you're going to lose Canadian if you do something wrong. And,
exactly.
Right now, this isn't meant to be a promote my guide video. That's not the purpose of this. But all the time I'm having to justify to people, well, it's free information. Well, it's not just information, is it? Like I actually demonstrate. I walk you physically through every window, every step.
Yes.
Yeah,
And you also
so
discuss all the glitches you can get into while filling the application. So, for example, if you're in the NOC battle that goes on, which NOC to put there, which experience is relevant. So you talk about all the scenarios. When you're filling in the NOC application, you talk all the scenarios. You talk about, which particular experience you need to put in, which particular experience you can take out from here and put in your personal history. So all of those things you discuss step by step, which are things that I've generally not seen in any wholesome sort of free video that's available online.
yeah.
And that really helps. As I said, I had a very complicated personal history. Apart from the complications in my application, I had a very, very complicated personal history. I've lived in like 7, 8 addresses in my country alone. And imagine in Pakistan living in 7, 8, addresses and then having a military background.
Yeah.
So I was sure I'm going to land up in, SS. I'm going to have security screening or something at the end of the day, which thankfully I didn't. So yeah.
Yes. So your journey is a year and a half in the making. So yes, your processing of your application went quickly, but it's been a long haul for you. So if you had some advice to give some of the members in our group who are struggling, who are wondering if it's worth it, wondering if their day will come when they'll get the magic golden email or notification, what advice would you have for them?
See, I'll tell them that it's all about being organized and all about understanding yourself. There's certain people who are good at doing things themselves. Like I'm one of those people who's very good at research, and there are things that I can do myself. Understand if this is something you can do by yourself. And if you think that that's not something, maybe you don't have the time to invest in it. Maybe you're not the sort of person who just, looks at videos visually and is able to fill an application. If that is the scenario, then understand that this is a long process. It's going to, it's going to throw a lot of curveballs at you. Get not a consultant, but somebody like you on board.
Marium,
I'm not
how
going to
much
use
am
the
I
word
paying
consultant.
you? This is important for our listeners
You're not
here.
paying me.
How
You're
much am
not.
I paying you to say all these things?
You're not paying me. As I said, it's very, very late in Pakistan.
Have you ever booked a consult with me?
I had a conversation with you, yes, and there was a problem in my application. It's personal. I'm not going to discuss here, but you basically advised me to have a conversation with, another lawyer who deals with those problems, and I did. And I think it was all worth it because then I was able to streamline my application according to the advice that I got from there. And honestly speaking, you didn't have to respond to me. At that point in time, I wasn't even expecting a response from you. And then I got that response because I was trying to book a consultation with you as well. And when you gave me that response, where you think is the right place for me to go, I mean, the fact that you took out the time and you guided me in that particular phase of my life, that's the reason I'm here. Otherwise, I would not be here, giving this particular introduction or basically giving a discussion. And that's my advice to all the people here. Please understand your limitations. Understand that this is a difficult process. Not everybody can do it themselves. If you think you can, go ahead and get that do-yourself guide and go ahead and do it. Otherwise, just book a consultation, 30 minutes, whatever, and get your help. Apart from that, IELTS is tough. Especially if English is not your native language. If English is not your native language, please, IELTS is tough. Be organized about it, read about it, do a lot of practice, and you're going to be able to, basically pass through flying colors. Yeah.
Awesome.
And good.
Very, very exciting. So you're planning Toronto as your initial destination, looking at the summer, and and hoping to expand your digital marketing career in Canada.
Hopefully. Definitely.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. It has been an absolute pleasure and, virtually a joy for me to see how your situation worked out. And from that first time when you reached out to me via Messenger, I knew that obviously there are certain people that have expertise in certain areas, and I was able to refer you to someone that I knew and trusted. And that's part of the value of this group, right? It's not just me. If I know that I can't, although I was a teacher, I'm not the best person to refer for help with English language. I refer people to Chris Enders up in Edmonton, who's a good friend up there who does that. I refer people to other lawyers who have specific areas of expertise. So I don't try to be everything to everyone. I know what I'm good at. I know what my knowledge base is. And when it starts to depart, then I make sure that I don't just tell the people that I can do it and then take their money. I refer them to the people who can truly help. So this is just that it all came together for you. I'm so happy for you. And I wish you, and I know everybody else in the group, I got tons of hearts here and thumbs up and everything else. Great story. All of these comments here that are just awesome. Wishing you all the best as you come to Canada and start your new life.
Thank you so much. And best of luck to everybody who's going through the journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Well, we'll let Miriam go here, and then away we go. All right. So I am back. Miriam's dropped off. It was really, really awesome of her to share that with us. And it's interesting. Most of the people now who are watching this live, and we've got a great group of people that are watching right now, and I can now see your comments. I can see the thumbs up. I can see everything. Jazz Deep says, best wishes, Miriam. And I know he echoes the words of Amir, great words. And Lena, lots of thumbs up here. So anyways, it's just awesome to have everybody a part of this and being so supportive of one another as everybody tries to navigate their way through this complex and crazy process called express entry. It is not easy. I had a consult this morning with an individual, and I was on a call with them for an hour and a half, working through reference letters, gaps in employment, huge complicated issues that there is no easy, simple answer to. And so anyone who says that express entry is simple and straightforward, well, on the surface it might be, but the reality is it is not that simple. Okay, so here is how we're going to proceed forward. Always, the people who send me their questions via email right here will get the first attention. And usually I shoot for about an hour for this. We'll see how it goes. I may cut it off a little bit earlier, but I will answer the paper-based questions first. And because each of these questions has, sometimes they get lost in these videos, I'm going to be making a note of the time when I answer these questions so that I can then link back to it when this video becomes a recording. So the first question here that I have is from Zeph. And Zeph says, hi, Mark. My name is Zephania from Nigeria. I've been listening to your updates on YouTube, and they have been amazing. So Zephania is a YouTuber, and that's awesome. I hope she watches the recording of this. I want to clarify something with you. My wife and I are considering immigration to Canada through express entry. However, given that my spouse is much younger, she's 36 while I'm 46, I want her to be the principal applicant. However, she is self-employed with over 5 years experience running her limited liability company. Do you think this will suffice as work experience for her? Okay, well, that's a great question, Zeph. And the answer is 100%. I'm going to make a note here. So that question was at about 22:30. That question is one that I get a lot of because I deal a lot with professionals, dentists, doctors, engineers, like people that have their own practices who face this all the time. And when you have your own company, it's still considered to be skilled work experience if you're actually working in an occupation within that company. So business owner is not an occupation. But if you are the president or CEO or whatever it is your title is with your company, yes, you can claim it. And so let me see what I can do once again about sharing some more of my screen. And I'm going to show you something here. Let's see if we can get this blown up. I'm going to now share my screen with you, and I'm going to enlarge this. And you can see right here, if you search for proof of work experience right here, there is general information here that talks about what you need to have. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that people can see it. Sometimes I wonder if it's making it any easier for you guys. That should. So you can see here that when it comes to, and I better go back down to work experience. When it comes to proof of work experience as an individual, everybody gets reference letters, and that's great. But you can't write yourself your own reference letter. Immigration doesn't accept that. But in here, you can see that there is information on what you can do as a self-employed individual. But remember, this is only for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, so not the Canadian Experience class in Canada. But the Federal Skilled Worker Program gives these, the completeness check, which is the policy that the officers use, they go by this. And you can see in here, it talks about some of the things that you need to have. And so without taking too much time to go into specific detail, because there is a lot going on when it comes to self-employment, and it's not the same as everybody else, and it is something that's specific, and you really should get some legal advice or direction on how to structure things properly to demonstrate your work experience. But here's some generic ideas. So obviously, if you're self-employed, there has to be some incorporation or other evidence that you actually own your business. That's step one. It has to actually be a viable operating business. Then you need to prove that you have income coming from there. And how do you do that? Well, you have clients, you have contracts. I had a detailed conversation with a lawyer in India just recently, getting confirmation of invoices that were sent out to clients, describing the services that were rendered, the payments that came into the business account, the business bank account. It was all documented. And he did an awesome job of documenting everything. So those are the kind of things that you need to do. And then you can see here, documentation from third-party individuals indicating the service provided along with details of the payment. And so you can see here, when you're issuing invoices, which businesses do, if it's a service-oriented business, or if you're selling things, or whatever the business might be, there's going to be evidence that you're being paid for the service or good that you're providing. And that's a part of the main requirements. So you're going to go through and you'll see right here, self-declared main duties or affidavits are not acceptable because they're just self-serving. And there's no way the government has an ability to know whether or not you are telling the truth or whether it is just basically something that you're fabricating. So great question, Zeph. Love it. And I will toss that one out the door. All right. Next question is from Adrian. And Adrian asks, "Good day, Mark. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being such a valuable guide to those of us navigating this crazy express entry process. My name is Adrian. I am pretty much in the home stretch of express entry process, and I'm scheduled to land in Canada on September 2018. That is awesome. Adrian has got a confirmation of permanent residence and instructions for landing, which is awesome. So they've successfully navigated their way through. So the question is in regards to how I am to go about transferring my funds to Canada. I understand that I will have to present proof that I have access to this money in Canada to the immigration officer upon landing. What mode of money transfer would you recommend? So I was told that I could use wire transfer, bank drafts, etc. to do this. I'm honestly confused as to which of these is my best option. I hope you could give some guidance." Great question, Adrian. And I'll make a note on this one that we're answering this one at about 27:20. This question, Adrian, is important because one thing people don't understand is that when you're going through your landing, so the process where you actually have your visa in your passport, you schedule your flight and you travel, when you land in Canada, part of your obligation is to not only show that you have your confirmation of permanent residence document, your valid visa, but then you have to establish that you have the sufficient funds to settle in Canada. Now, practically speaking, very few officers actually inquire about that anymore. Some do, and if they do, they will ask, how much money do you have to support yourself? You will tell them, and then often, if they do want proof, all that you need to provide is a copy of your bank statement showing that the funds are in there, or a copy of your savings account or your investment account, or whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be converted to Canadian dollars, but it needs to be in English so that they can read it, but virtually the same types of things that you used when you submitted your EAPR. If you bring those evidences, then you're going to be fine every single step of the way. So there's no concerns about it. So I hope that you don't need to transfer funds. You don't need to wire. You don't need to have a cashier's check or a bank draft or traveler's checks. You don't need to bring those with you other than the ones you actually need to get on the ground, to get settled, to pay for your first hotel, whatever it is when you're coming to Canada. You can always transfer and wire those funds after the fact, but in the beginning, you just need to prove that you have it, and that's usually in the form of a bank statement with your name and showing the balance. Okay? Great question, Adrian. Thanks for asking it. Okay, the next question, and I can see here Bella Bell, my dear friend Bella here. She says, "Hi, Mark." Hi, Bella. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bella has a special place in my heart. She is like a sister to me. And if you watch a few episodes back, she was one of the guests that came on, and her story is an amazing one that you don't want to miss. So go back and watch the one with Bella Hansky, and she is one of my dear, dear friends who has gone through an amazing, amazing journey, difficult, challenging, to become a permanent resident of Canada. So if you need a little inspiration, Miriam gave you some inspiration, but Bella can give you even more. Okay, last email question comes from Dare. And he says, Mark, please, I want to ask, can I use 2 NOCs to claim points on my Express Entry profile application? And would a letter of employment sufficient for an experience letter where my salary was paid in cash? Can they mention it in the reference letter? Thanks. So there's 2 questions here. One, can I use 2 different NOC codes to claim points on my Express Entry profile? And then the next question is whether or not, if you're paid via cash, if that's okay, and whether it can just be indicated in the reference letter your employer gives you, whether or not that actually is acceptable. So is there, otherwise, does there need to be any kind of, I'm just making a note here about when I answered this question, does there need to be anything else? Well, here's the starting point. And this is where I'm going to go back and share my screen again. And let's see here. There it is. Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to share my screen. And this is one good advantage because you guys can't see my whole messy desktop. Federal skilled worker eligibility. I Google it and it takes me right here. Nice and big so everybody can see. These are the requirements for what you need to meet the eligibility portion of Express Entry. So in order to be eligible for the Federal Skilled Worker Program or the Canadian Experience class, you have to meet those eligibility requirements. And then if you're eligible, you can then submit your profile, then get your comprehensive ranking system score. So 2 different things, folks. So right off the bat here, you can see here, skilled work experience. It must be in the same type of job as your primary NOC. So if you want to claim work experience for the purposes of, and I'm going to scroll back up here, the Federal Skilled Worker Program under Express Entry, if that's the program that you're going through, which it will be if you're overseas, if you're not in Canada and don't have Canadian work experience, then you need to be able to demonstrate that all the work experience that you're claiming is in the same NOC. But you have to pay close attention here because what Dare is asking is whether he can claim points under Express Entry for 2 different NOCs. And the answer in that case, Dare, is yes, provided your first NOC fully meets this. Same NOC within the last 10 years, paid, it has to be paid, and in a skilled level. And it has to be, and this is where I'll add here, at least 1 year, which amounts to continuous work of at least 1,560 hours and at least 30 hours a week. So that is the basic premise. If you want to include work experience in for 2 different employers, that's also possible. But understand, if you have more than 1 job, it still needs to be in the same NOC. So the same type as your primary NOC. Once you've satisfied these requirements, so you have at least 1 year, let's say, of skilled work experience, then if you have work experience in another NOC or 2 other NOCs that also add in 1 year and 1 year more for a total of 3 years of foreign work experience, and they're all in 3 different NOCs, you can use that. There's no restriction on it, and you will receive comprehensive ranking system points for it. So yes, you can, but you have to meet the minimum eligibility requirements. And without getting into too much detail, for some of you, 1 year of foreign work experience may not be enough to meet the minimum eligibility requirements for the Federal Skilled Worker Program. And if you scroll down here, you can see there's education requirements. You then reach the selection factors here. And remember, this is before you even get into the pool. This is the entry requirements. This is the Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility. So not only do you need to have 1 year as a minimum of skilled work experience, but you're also assessed on a separate 100-point grid. And you have to have at least 67 points. And if you look at the grid, if I click on here, you'll see that experience right here is one of the categories that you get points for. And you have to tabulate how many points you get. And you can see for language, there's 28 points. And if we scroll down here, you get additional points for education. And then once you clear your education and the points that you get for it, it comes to experience right here. And you can see you can get up to a maximum of 15 points. Well, if you're sitting at, let's say, 67 points, for instance, and you need to claim all 3 years of work experience, so you can see you get points, 2 to 3 years of work experience will give you 11 points. Well, let's say you only have 1 year of skilled work experience in the same NOC. So you're actually trying to claim work experience in 3 different positions for a total of 3 years. Well, that may count for comprehensive ranking system, but if you need 3 years or two years of foreign skilled work experience, but you don't have it all in the same NOC, then you're not going to get credit for it, and you would only get 9 points here. And maybe for some of you, that would result in you having less than the 67-point pass mark. So, so I just wanted to share that with you. And now I'm going to just go back here to the screen and myself here. And so you can see that express entry isn't just simple. It's multifaceted. And you have to meet that 67-point threshold. But if you do, you meet that eligibility, then if you need to claim points for other areas of work experience, you can claim them. And interestingly enough, once you reach 3 years of skilled work experience abroad, foreign skilled work experience, you've really pretty much maximized the amount of points that you can get. So when it comes to skill transferability, the transferability factors or combinations will only max out after you have 3 years of foreign work experience. So whether you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, it's all the same. Okay? All right, I hope that answered the question. All right, so now is the time where I can answer live questions. I've got a few minutes left here. We're at about the, we had to restart here, but I'll probably give about 10 minutes for live questions here. So if you want to post them now, I've got my phone right here, and we will start to record from Ratan Roja, who gave me the email address. And Ratan, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to tell you what to do with your email address. All of you guys that are tuning in. I got to show you this, guys. I have to show you this. This is my private page. So some of you know that my son, unbelievable. Look at this. It still says it's live. I've got a glitch with my Facebook page, and now I can't shut this live video off. Anyways, my personal page, that is. So look at these pictures here. You guys will get a kick out of this. So the bottom right here is me and my best friend, Jesse, and we were in the Missionary Training Center. That was in 1992 when I left to go to Portugal on my mission. And my best friend, Jesse, just happened to be there the same time. We left at the same time. He went to the Philippines. Now check this out. If you look at this picture above, my son, Adam, who's going to Trinidad, Port of Spain mission, serving most of his time probably in Suriname. He is also in the MTC in front of and the MTC is the Missionary Training Center that missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Before you go out on your missions, you go there to receive training and instruction. And in the case of Jesse and I, down in the bottom picture here, we both received training. I learned Portuguese and Jesse learned Tagalog. But my son is learning Dutch here, Adam. And guess who's beside him right here? It's Jesse's son, Garrett. It is so cool. 26 years ago, the same place, 26 years later, our sons recreated the same picture that Jesse and I did and took it in the MTC. So cool, so awesome. Okay, back to what I wanted to share. If you go to our group here and you go to the top in announcements, okay, and this relates directly to the email that when people are posting their emails. Ratan and Manawaral also listed their email address. Don't post your email addresses here. Go here to this link at the top. If you can't see it on your phone, go to the announcements. And then you'll see that there's a link. You click on Canadian Immigration Institute right here, and it will take you directly to, eventually, the landing page for where you can subscribe to my Express Entry mailing list. And so you can click on here, and then I'll add your list, add your email address, and then you'll have the ability to receive notifications when I'm posting new content. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with all of you guys. All right, so now let's jump on and let's try to answer some people's questions here. So, okay, let's start with Abhishek here. Abhishek says, what happens if I have to renew my passport after the ITA? Say if no more visa pages left or any other reason. You can totally do it. That's not an issue. Understand, when you submit your EAPR, your passport needs to be valid. So you can't submit an EAPR application when your passport has expired. So even when you get through the process, you need to watch it carefully and get your passport extended. Now, sometimes people will file their EAPR with a valid passport, and then it takes a little bit of time. In those circumstances, you have the ability to request a new one, because remember, you're just submitting a copy of the data page of your passport with your name and date of birth and biographical information and the expiry information. And so when you're going through that process, remember that you can request a new passport because you'll still retain your old one, but you're not going to get landed as a permanent resident unless you have that 6 months of availability and a place for them to put the visa in your passport. Okay, good question, Abhishek. Okay, Newman says, sir, can you tell the details about Federal Skilled Trade Program? Okay, Newman, I will show you the link, okay? And then you can do your research, because to go over all of the ins and outs, that's like a whole separate discussion. But let me share my page with you again, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to type is Federal Skilled Trade Program, and then eligibility, and we'll take a quick look at the basic requirements. And I'll blow this up big so everybody can see again. So this is where you're applying if you're in the skilled trade. And this minimum requirements are pretty straightforward. Remember, and many people ask about living in Quebec, you have to plan to live outside the province of Quebec. So that's first and foremost right out of the gate, okay? So you need to meet the required English or French language abilities for each of these language abilities, and you can click on the link and you can see what they are. They're actually quite a bit lower than the standards are for the Federal Skilled Worker Program. And we're actually due, we're overdue for another draw through the Federal Skilled Trade Program. So those of you who meet these requirements, seriously consider getting your profile in. So you need to have at least 2 years of full-time work experience or an equal amount in part-time in a skilled trade within the 5-year period before you apply. Remember, the Federal Skilled Worker Program gives you 10 years, but for the trades, it's 5. And then you need to meet the requirements of that skilled trade as set out in the NOC, except for the need to have Canadian certificates of qualification, which obviously you can't get if you're outside of the country. Then you also have to have an offer of full-time employment for a total period of at least 1 year, or in this case, actually have a certificate of qualification in that skilled trade that was issued by a provincial authority. So this is, generally speaking, what's required. It's not super complicated, but sometimes it is when you're trying to prove your work experience. But that's the general requirements for the program. And if you do fit into those, and some of you are probably wondering, well, what is a skilled trade? Understand, when you go through here, there are specific NOC codes that are associated with it. This talks about what constitutes, excuse me, you can see as you scroll down here, this talks about what it means to have at least 30 hours of work and these kinds of things. Because skilled trades, often you're bouncing around from one job to another to another. And I'm actually going to make a note here, because once I answered these questions, I forgot to keep track of my time. And just give me 1 second, because I really want to provide a good description here. So we're at 43.58. I'd say it's about 42 that we did the trade, and then it was earlier than that. I'd say it was about 38 that we did the other one on eligibility. Okay, boy, you guys have to remind me to make a note of the time when I'm answering these questions. Okay, let's go back here to the federal skilled trade. And as you scroll down here, you'll see which occupations and which NOCs actually fit within skilled trades. And you can see they're all listed here. And remember, this is the first 2 digits of the NOC code, the first 2. So there could be a 7211, there could be a 7311, but these are what's considered to be trades, including chefs and cooks. All right, so there's that question. Great question. Jump back to me here. Okay, next on the list, let's see, we have Lena. So Lena says, my husband hasn't started working with the same NOC job until 7 years after graduating. Is this work gap a problem? Okay, so we put here, we are about 45. And this is one I'm going to show you guys, education matching work experience. You do not have to worry, Lena, in any way about a delay between your education or your husband's education and their work experience. It just does not apply. So those of you who are wise now and know that my Canadian Immigration Institute page has all of these videos there, I'm going to show you guys the YouTube, and I'm going to show, in particular, I'm going to show Lena. You can see all these things here that I've got. My kids, yes, my kids, they somehow manage to do things and connect sometimes through my own YouTube channel. So you'll see here in the Canadian Immigration Institute, there are a bunch of past questions. And I did some express entry tip of the days. I used to do this little image, and then I messed around with some other ones. But you'll see here there is one that says right here, and I'm going to pause it. This question is, does my education need to match my work experience? And in some ways, this one here actually answers your question. Because one thing people don't realize, and if we go here and we go NOC 2016, and we open it up, and then I punch in here, oh, I don't know, is that one? Okay, so here we've got college and other vocational instructors. I just picked one randomly. Every occupational profile in the National Occupational Classification System, which we have here, has the lead statement. You need to show that you've performed all of the activities in the lead statement, as well as a substantial number of these main duties. And whether you're an instructor, whether you're a welder, a mechanic, it doesn't matter. They all have employment requirements underneath here. For the purposes of eligibility under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, for the purposes of claiming skilled work experience, the education component doesn't mean anything. You can see here that to work in this position, a bachelor's degree, a college diploma, or demonstrated experience in the field of instruction is required. It's mandatory. So if you were to apply for a work permit to come to Canada to work as a college instructor, well, you would need to meet these employment requirements in order to actually get your work permit. But that isn't the case when you're dealing with the federal skilled worker program and express entry. The employment requirements don't apply. So how old your husband's education is and the time gap between when he applied, when he completed his studies and then got the job is irrelevant. So that's a great question. Thanks for asking about that. I'll put here gap. Okay, so the next one, let's see here. The next question I have, let's see who we have next here. Okay, so Gazala, let me see if I can make sense of this one. Gazala says, I need to know that how I will contact you for my case, as currently I'm in the UAE and working as a general practitioner and want to apply for immigration. Oh, well, Gazala, this is pretty simple. And so a lot of people don't realize this, but when you go to our Facebook page, and many people don't even realize this, at the top, you will see me. I'm right here. It says subscribe to the guide. If you click on this image at the top, it has links, and one of them is hire Mark as your immigration representative right here. And if you click on this link right here, it takes you directly to the place where you can set up a paid consultation with me right here. And then you can fill in your information, your name, email address, your immigration status if you have it. How did you hear about us? I love this one because then you can go here and you can put Facebook Express Entry Law Private Group. And then I know that this group is actually working. And then you can put your information down here in terms of what you're looking for. So that's the best way to reach out to me to set up an engagement. And I personally do not like to take people's money unless I know there's a good chance that they are going to qualify. So I always start my legal relationship with a paid consultation. If you ultimately hire me, then I give you credit for that time that you spent for your consult towards the quoted flat fee for the services. And while we're on that discussion, if you go back here and we open this back up again, and then we go back to our express entry page, I close this out. At the top, I told you here that there was an announcement section, and you'll see there's two things. The first is how to subscribe to my mailing list. And then if you click this button down here, once again, Facebook throttling everything. If you click see all, you can then see where I've actually posted my complete fee structure for everything. And so each of these fee structures are listed here. And you can see I've got a bronze, a silver, and a gold plan. So everything is right there available. And if people just knew how to find it, I guess, then life would be great for everybody. All right. So that's the best way of connecting with me. And those are my fee structures. All right. Next question. Imeke says, "Hi, Mark. Can I claim points for a relative if he is my uncle under the Federal Skilled Worker Program?" Well, Imeka, I can tell you that for the comprehensive ranking system, you only get points for a sibling. But under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, you do get up to 5 points towards your Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility for a family member, which does include an uncle. All right, so let's put that in here. And I'll put here family, uncle, CRS. And that one happened at about 51, right around there. Okay, and these are averages, so hopefully people will understand. Okay, Jasdeep. Okay, you guys, what are you guys saying here? Okay, Jasdeep says, "Mark, if I book a paid consult, will you be able to go through my reference letters and other documents and suggest me what I should do, or 30 minutes paid consultation is just for verbal question answers?" Jasdeep, that's a fantastic question. My situation that was booked this morning with the individual to go over all of the detailed reference letters and everything was 100% within the 30-minute consult. And what I ask people to do is to send them to me in advance and I can take a look at them. And then what we do is I'll tell you what we do. And this is the part that people don't understand. And I can't, like me telling you that the consults are unbelievably valuable. Well, I can't even do that because the Law Society of Alberta says I can't claim I'm an expert, which I won't do because my code of professional conduct prevents me from doing that. But I can tell you that if you go online and you just search for people who've had consults with me within our group, you will see, I'll tell you exactly what happens. So if I share my screen, what I do is, and I'll blow this up again, I go specifically to the National Occupational Classification System, and we go here and we search for your position. So I'll just put lawyer in here. I pull this up over a Skype consult. We pull it up here and we go step by step by step with their reference letter and with each of these main duties one by one by one to make sure that you actually have performed a substantial number of the main duties. In some cases, people are unsure whether or not they actually have the right NOC code. And so we have to determine, is it 4112 as a lawyer or is it something else? So then we scroll down here and you'll see here that there are patent agents. They're not lawyers. There's notary publics. There's legal firm managers. There's legal department directors. Well, maybe one of these positions applies. Or maybe you're a paralegal. And so I go through all of that in detail, excruciating detail, so that when a person leaves, they are satisfied and comfortable that what they have chosen is correct, and most importantly, that their reference letters worked. Now, some people, they know what it costs, and when you book a consult with me, and I'll go back and I'll share this again and blow it up, you can see that I charge, and everything is listed here, I charge $100 per 30 minutes. Now, in Alberta, I also charge 5% sales tax, which I have to remit to the government, but that $200 per 30-minute consult, that is often I can get through a reference letter in that time. But if you have lots of documents and you're looking for more assistance, but more so just on reviewing documentation, well, if you go here, guys, to the service levels that I have, that basically is my bronze plan. And you can see what bronze includes, including unlimited access to the EE Do-It-Yourself Guide, which is a $497 US value. You get that for free with your $1,000 bronze plan. People don't understand that the guide comes as a free. And if you even book a consult with me, then the consult itself at $200, 30 minutes, you get 50% off of the cost of the full do-it-yourself guide if you've booked a consult before. And people just, I don't think you guys understand, how many ways I'm trying to help you. And, that's why I've created all of this. And I physically can't answer everybody's question outside of what I'm trying to do today. The EE live Q&A is going to be the only way that I'm interacting with you guys unless you pay. And the reason is because I've created so much content, and now a lot of it is repeated over and over and over. So now, I've done what I need to do to give the free advice to you guys, aside from these EE live Q&As, because every question that's been asked in this, I've already answered and created a video for it. So now I'm going to do a better job of directing people back to those versus answering the same people's questions over and over. And sometimes people do have specific questions that can't be answered, and it requires legal advice and direction. And that's something that people will have to pay for. All right. Great question there. Okay. So let's see here. Let's see who else we have. Okay. So Candia says, hi, Mark. When applying under the lawyer NOC, is it advisable to have my LLB, foreign degree, assessed if I have an LLM from a Canadian university? Candia, that's a fantastic question, Candia. And do you know what? I always get everything assessed just out of an abundance of caution. And so I know there's an extra cost. If you have an LLM in Canada, I'll be honest, you're probably okay. You'll probably get credit for it. And, it's not a big deal, but there is no harm in going and getting your LLB West as well, just in case. There was a time when they wanted to see even high school credentials leading up to it, but the answer is you just can't. I just don't take any chances. I'm always worried that things are not going to work out properly. So I always go out of my way to do even more than maybe is required in some cases, just because I never want to leave it up to an officer to make a determination. So there's no harm in doing it. I would bet that the LLM in Canada itself is sufficient, but I just, for the extra a few $100, whatever it takes to get the West assessment, I will often do that just because I don't want to take any chances. Okay. Yogan Doonan says, hello, Mark. I hate that website. Exhausting searching for jobs on it. I think Egan is talking about here, I think he's talking about the job bank and not the National Occupational Classification System. They are linked, but it's all good. Okay, Jasdeep says, thanks, Mark. If I ever land in Canada, first thing I will be doing is taking your autograph. Do you know what, Jasdeep? And all of you guys, you can see how hard it is for my message to get out in the world. You can see how many people just don't believe I have anything that's really of value that is worth paying for. People don't believe that this guide, which you just heard our fantastic guest Marium share her thoughts on how it helped her. People just don't believe that it's actually worth it. And, when I go in and I see people who are so grateful for all of the things that I do, all of the help. Well, if the best way in the world that people can say thank you is if you go to CanadianImmigrationInstitute.com and you type in your URL, it will take you right here to my course. This is it. And I'll show you what Marium was talking about. She was talking about how there are modules for every little section and how you can pick and choose the ones that apply to your situation. And the modules are broken down into individual lessons. Everything from learning the basics. And I'm going to enlarge this a little bit bigger for those on YouTube or who are watching this on their handhelds. This is what the course is. Learning the basics. Welcome. What is express entry? How the comprehensive ranking system works. Module 2 is about preparing to submit your express entry profile. This is even before you even do it. So the top five things to do before you even submit it. How do you register for your MyCIC account? You'll know when you're using agents overseas, they register through their portals and they keep things from you. They don't tell you where your application's at. Well, when you have control, you register your own MyCIC account. You maintain your password. You maintain your login. And you don't have someone else do it for you. That's how you protect yourself. If these crooked agents are claiming to be a legal representative and they're not, always maintain your own password. But that's a little tip of the day. And then, are you eligible for express entry with Canadian work experience? So are you eligible without it? So the requirements, some of the pitfalls. And then finally, getting right into completing your profile. Each section, the summary one, the personal details, contact details, everything, work history. And you'll see it's there. There's even sections specifically for a spouse if you have one. It talks a little bit about registering with the job bank, which is not a mandatory component anymore, but it's still helpful information if you do want to post your ad there, your job there, post your profile, but it's not mandatory anymore. And then understanding once you get your summary page back, what it looks like, what the stuff means. And then finally, lesson 22 is getting that awesome invitation to apply. Now, guys, you see here, there's an arrow pointing down. And that arrow means that there's a whole heck of a lot more than that, because this first part, getting the ITA, is easy in many instances. This is where the problems arise. Once you get your ITA, justifying it. So this is the EAPR section. Everything, once again, understanding your home screen, what you're looking at, completing the eligibility section. Are you a principal applicant? Do you have a spouse? We get to that. And then not only spouses, but those of you who have dependent children. And all of this is all broken down in detail. Uploading your documents. This is one of the ones that Marium was so grateful for the assistance on, because it actually goes into detail about the document checklist. Now, how the checklist looks is they've modified it just slightly. They've reworded a few things and changed things around a little bit. And I'm in the process of revising the document checklist in here. But I go through painstaking detail about your documents. I give you samples that you can look at to know that you've got the right thing. And so all of this is within the document section. And then the FAQs, guys, these frequently asked questions go on forever. And you can search them. So there you go, guys. That is the guide. And I know I forgot to pull this off of here, which is the story of my life. I'm always leaving these overlays on here, but I think you guys could still see. That's why it's worth it. And, for $97 a month, Marium only chose to do the monthly plan, and that was totally fine. But I am not going to be as accessible anymore within the group to answer questions. So when you tag me, it's more than likely I'm not going to respond. If you want to book a consult, then absolutely. That's something that I can do, one-on-one consultations for a fee. But I've created all of these resources out there. And I just don't have the capacity to answer questions anymore on a one-to-one basis. I will continue to do these weekly EE Live Q&As and spin everything out to my Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel. And don't forget about registering, subscribing to my email list. All right. So this is kind of where things are at. I hope you guys found this one helpful. I was so appreciative of Marium for coming on and sharing her story. And she didn't tell you guys the half of it. You guys have no clue what she has gone through. And, she went from a period of thinking she had no hope to becoming a permanent resident of Canada, which will happen this summer. So grateful that she joined us. I'm so grateful for all of you guys who've tuned in. Those of you I know who've got a lot of questions. And Emeka says here, Mark, if I book a consult, do you specifically request what I actually need before we have a conversation about it? If it's related to specific things, you tell me what you want to talk about. You send me the documents that you want me to review and go over with you. And then in the consult, I do that. If the consult goes more than 30 minutes, then I bill at my prorated rate. So for every 1/10, you can think if it's $200 for 30 minutes, then divided by 10, 20. So it's about, what is that? 200 for 30 minutes. It's $40 every 10 minutes, I think is how, or 6 minutes. It's all a blur. Anyways, it's billed on a prorated if it goes longer than the 30 minutes. So you pay for as much or as little time as you need, but the 30-minute minimum 200 is the minimum. Okay. All right. I'm going to have to call her right there, guys. But thanks once again for tuning in. Remember, if you want to ask me a question for future EE Live Q&As, you can send me an email to mholthy@stringham.ca. Put EE Live in the Q&A, EE Live Q&A in the subject line, and then you will know, or at least I will know, that this question is supposed to be directed to our awesome Q&A sessions that we do here right on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. Thanks for tuning in. This one was a little bit longer than normal, but I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks again for sticking in after the second attempt, because I forgot to turn my mic off, or my mic back on. Okay, guys, take care. Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, signing off from beautiful Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. Take care.